first, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, it's
okay.
got four questions that we're supposed to go over from the case.
Yes. So are we recording? Yes, we're
Yep,
recording.
it's live.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, we need to what do you think, how can you define sexual harassment?
There was three things. It was like verbal, physical, and then there was another one.
Yeah, what was that? Let me pull this back up.
Okay, so what do you understand about the background of sexual harassment law, about what we read about the laws of this issue?
Well, the background of it, like the history of it, kind of. Is that what it said? So
Yes.
it talked about how, before that was just, oh, this one guy is having some urges or whatever. And then now it's actually seen as, this is a reflection on the person, the position, the company. Not just one guy is having some sexual urges. Now it's actually harassment, whether it's quid pro quo or whether it's just a hostile work environment. It's kind of evolved to where it's more prevalent and more important on the minds of HR.
Yes, thank you. So the quid pro quo harassment, it's about the exchange of a job for a sexual favor, right? And it's mostly between like a boss and the other person that is below them. And then the hostile work environment harassment is like, and what is a hostile work environment? What does it say here? It involves behavior that has the purpose of unreasonably interfering with an individual's work performance. Blah, blah, blah. So would you say that in the case there is quid pro quo or hostile work environment?
Hostile work environment. I don't know that he's really, I don't know, maybe he I guess he could be using it like to overhead, because since he's her boss, for the, hey, allow me to do this, and then you'll get, special benefits or whatever for doing that. So I guess there could be a little bit of both.
Yes, actually here in the discussion leader thing, it says that there's not enough information to say that it's a quid pro quo, but because she mentions that she's afraid of being fired, it may imply that there's this quid pro quo, but based on what she says, it's a hostile work environment. So from the reading, the note on sexual harassment, do you think De Coste got accurate advice when he called the council's office?
Yes.
Okay. What else do we have to talk about? Someone else have something else to say about this part, because we're getting to part 2 now?
I mean, it'd just be really important. I guess the logic is definitely there, that he can't really just turn a blind eye because of, all the repercussions that would happen. So, I mean, I think it's perfectly accurate advice, and it's what he should be doing.
Yes.
And
so yeah.
I was thinking, so when do we actually like call it a sexual harassment? Because sometimes people use some words that are inappropriate at workplace and all that, but and you might have a boss that's just like having a loose mouth and it's always saying all these crazy things, so could that be considered as sexual harassment? Because from the reading, if we read between the lines, it seems pretty much It's more of you trying to use it to take advantage of others because of your position of authority or something like that. So, I mean, I just have that in mind as something to think about.
I think from the reading that it is sexual harassment what is happening to her. It's just that this harassment is divided in two types. So we have the quid pro quo and the hostile work environment. And what's happening to her is sexual harassment, but the type of sexual harassment she's having is the hostile work environment, from what she says. But it is, I mean, it's horrible what happens to her. And it's super uncomfortable to be around his boss and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, so um what would you say that the Costa should do right now? Because the story didn't end, right? So what do you think he should do next and why?
I mean, I think he definitely needs to report to the what is it, the EEO or whatever, um, and tell them what's
Mhm.
going on. Give them his side of the story. That way, the investigation can start. Um, I mean, that's basically the only option for him at this point.
And would you be willing to get fired? Because he could probably get fired over this.
Yeah, and I don't know that he would get fired. I mean, I think it could look bad for her. Like if the investigation like started, they couldn't find any evidence of malpractice or sexual harassment there, and then it could like put her in like a negative light. And so for him, like to worry about that, like worry about that kind of responsibility on him. I mean, I don't think he would really like because it's going to be anonymous, you know, for his tip, but for the investigation to happen, inquiries and stuff are going to have to be made into both her and then also her boss. So I mean, that's kind of the tricky part, and I think that's why she really doesn't want to make a big deal out of it because of the implications and the struggle that's going to happen, you know, with this investigation. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a nasty thing, and so it has to be taken care of, whether it's easy or difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I think when he reports it, it's anonymous, but I think I read in some part that they could call him to talk about what he heard.
Mm-hmm.
So if he does that, then his boss, I don't know if there's a
I don't.
way he can prevent his boss from firing him
I don't think
or
that's.
firing her.
It's
Do you
not
think
his
it's
boss.
legal?
I think it's her boss, but not his boss.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still. I mean, it still would be awkward around the office. You know,
Yes.
if it came out that DaCosta was the one that talked about like that brought it to the EEO. But yeah, so there's definitely. I mean, there's a lot of um, awkwardness that's going to happen no matter what happens. But I mean, when it comes to an issue like this, you really can't just try to take the easy road because the consequences could be really bad.
Yeah, I think we all agree that he should report it, but then it says, what about if there's a student who says you should do nothing? Um, does the coste owe any ethical duty to other possible victims of the perpetrator? I think, of course, because if you know something and you don't say anything, you are hurting the person, in this case, Julia, and also any other girls or woman at work or any other place that he's doing the same thing too.
Right.
And well, it also says, does he owe Julia any ethical duty if he feels unable to stick up for her, or does he owe any duty to the company? What about the company? I don't know.
Well, I think that is a moral dilemma. Is in what I would describe as a moral dilemma because it's up to him to stand up for humanity or just take a stand for his self-interest. So, um,
Mhm.
sincerely, he owns no tie to any of the two, but it's a question of how well will he uphold moral behavior. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just up to him. It's up to him and his ability to make decisions that would impact his conscience. So pretty much.
Hmm.
Well, if we read the story, we know that he only overheard this conversation. He hasn't seen anything. She hasn't even named the alleged harasser. But what would you specifically report to the EO office? How much can they do when you say, well, I overheard this conversation. I think she's referring to this person, but I'm not sure. I think about what would I do in the position. Yes, I would report it, but it would be kind of weird because you don't have so
Hmm.
specific details about what's happening, but also not saying anything, it's terrible also because she's suffering from harassment. But what would you report to the EO office, and specifically, what will you report?
I think what you just said is what I would report. I just say, hey, this is what happened. I overheard this conversation. It wasn't intentional. I was walking out my office. This is kind of what happened. I think in this situation, being as 100% truthful and open with the EEO would be most beneficial for everyone involved. So the EEO can take that information with the understanding that, yes, he doesn't have a complete understanding of what happened, but we've got this conversation to go on, and so that would kind of dictate what they do as in regards to their investigation and where they start and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so now there's this part here that says each of us needs to have a role. How many of us are we're
I think
four
there's
right
four
now.
of us. Yeah, we lost. What was his name? Dang it. Justin. We lost Justin.
So one of us has to be the potential victim of harassment. The other one has to be the accused harasser. The other one is the bystander, and the last one is the legal counsel. So anyone prefers one role over the other?
I'll be the legal counsel.
Okay, I can be the accused harasser because it's horrible. Nobody wants that role.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can be the victim.
Okay, and we have Forrest for the bystander. Okay, I don't know if he's there. Okay,
Are you there for
so
us? I wonder if he's got a bad internet connection.
yeah, so we will all have 5 minutes to do this. Given the assigned role, identify the most important things you want to see in the new policy and procedures that your organization is formulating to govern sexual harassment issues. Be prepared to defend your choices as other people may not agree with them. So our company is formulating a new policy and procedure to deal with this sexual harassment issue. And from the role that we have, we need to identify the things that we want to see in this new policy. And we'll have 5 minutes for that and then discuss what we think about
Okay.
it. Okay.
So you want each of us to just to think about it right now for a couple minutes? Is that what it is?
Think
Or
about
should
it and
we discuss it?
I think probably make a list of 2 or 3 things that we want to see in the new policy. So maybe if you're the victim, what would you want to see in this new policy that would like protect you? I don't know what I would want if I'm the harasser, but well,
You probably don't want a sexual harassment policy if you're the harasser.
yeah, okay. Let's say maybe just a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Hey, sorry, I keep cutting in and out. I'm going to be here as much as I can, but my internet just keeps losing it.
Did you hear Stephanie's description of what we're supposed to be doing right now?
Nope.
So we're supposed to think about things that you, I guess, what was his role again, Stephanie? He was the bystander?
Yes, the bystander. So you would be in this case, his name. Um, I don't know.
D, it
Let's
starts
see,
with a D. Dang it, where'd it go?
Jack the Costa.
The guy who overheard it?
Yeah, Jack DaCosta or something. Yeah, the guy that overheard the harassment.
Okay, what am I supposed to be doing?
You're supposed to think about a couple of things that you would like. The company is thinking about implementing a new sexual harassment policy to the company. And so you want to think of a couple things that you would like in that policy that makes sense from you as a bystander, that would help you as the bystander.
Okay.
I'm ready whenever you guys are, so let me know.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready to.
I'm ready.
You ready, Ezekiel?
Yeah, I'm ready to.
Cool. Okay, so we can start with the potential victim. This is the order that I have here. So
Okay, so here are some of the things I would at least want the company to be more serious about. One is their EOC office should allow regular check-in, like a form of survey to find out what is going on in each employee's relationship with one another, and to be able to like talk up and say what you feel if anyone is like harassing you sexually. So it shouldn't be something that you're afraid of because you're kind of scared that you might lose your job. So that is definitely one policy that I would like to see there, that there should be no form of repercussion for reporting sexual harassment at any time or in any form. And I think that is one essential one I would love to see. Another um, another one I was thinking about is to have a kind of um, relationship office, like that kind of regularly go through the state's sexual harassment policy and make sure that all employees are well aware of what the company and the state's law is about when it comes to sexual harassment, because it's kind of obvious that it's like a no-go area in their company. So it's important to have like regular training and make sure that everyone knows um, what sexual harassment entails, and that it's not just only in action, it could be also verbal or any other form that it comes. So, and also it's important for everyone to know the responsibilities and the consequences that comes with any action that might involve sexual harassment. So I think that is something I would really want to see change in the company. So regular training as well as a better sexual harassment reporting system.
Awesome.
Great. Okay, I'll go next. Well, these are not great ideas, but I'm the accused harasser. So if I would be the accused harasser, um I would think that the policy needs to say that there needs to be proof or evidence to show that there is harassment. Also, that the harassment needs to be done in front of other employees to have witness about it. You know that most of the times these people, these harassers, tend to do it alone with the victim. So they would want this to be there so they have less chances to be caught. Then also that sexual harassment is considered only when there's touching involved. And sexual harassment can come in many ways, like saying words or being too close to the other person or other things that don't necessarily are touching the other person. And also, well, in this case, I wouldn't be the accused harasser in the case, but if I was another kind of harasser, I would say that I only want a supervisor to be considered for harassment because I can be a coworker or not be a supervisor, but be like below the other person and also harass someone. So I would say only consider supervisors for harassment, and all of these things are, of course, for them to not be caught or yeah, caught. I don't know the other word. Yeah.
Awesome. Who's next?
Okay, so the bystander.
The bystander. That's you, Forrest.
So almost identical to what Ezekiel said. Here we have a zero retaliation, you know. So if the person that went and spoke up, or you know whether that's the person that was sexually harassed or the bystander, if they went and spoke up to HR about it, there should be a zero retaliation rule. That if the person who is accused starts treating them badly, you know there's going to be punishment. So zero retaliation, and also no punishment towards the person who's reporting from the company. You know, sometimes it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or get rid of the squeaky wheel, and you know, make sure that it's not that there's no punishment that's going to come back. I would also want specific training on what and when to report. You know, what is going to be the point that we report it? Is it when we saw it the first time and we stopped it? Is it when we saw that it was repeatedly happening? When we saw that it was a specific action, like you know a physical touch action, or so just specific training on that. And then the last one would be direction on what to do, whether we do try and talk to the people in the moment when we find out, or whether we're supposed to just go to HR, or whether we're supposed to try and do both. So really training and making sure that there's zero retaliation.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks.
All right. So the legal counsel, that's what I am, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think just like what Ezekiel and Forrest said, I think the biggest thing from a legal counsel perspective is to make sure that all of the employees in the company is trained. You know, I think they need to understand the severity of sexual harassment, and then also the implications that are involved from a company perspective, not just individually. You know, and so in this case, that was something that Jack was really surprised to find out that he could even be held legally liable by not talking about this. So I think getting that information out and making sure that there is a good training program and that the policy is regularly talked about I think is really important. So I think from a legal perspective, I think that would be something I'd be most concerned about. Well, looks like you're muted, Stephanie.
Oh, I'm in mute. Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
right.
You're good.
So you say you want them to be trained or held accountable?
Yes, I mean, I think the entire company. I think from a legal counsel perspective, I think the most important thing is for the company to understand how the repercussions of sexual harassment and what it entails for the whole company, not just individually. You know, not just the harasser or the bystander, how it affects everyone and how important it is for the bystander as well as the person who's being harassed to bring that up, understand the protections that are in place, and then also even for the harasser to understand that it's that there will be an investigation made and not just anybody saying, you know, he touched me or looked at me wrong is going to get fired, that there's actually going to be some sort of a investigation made. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that there is a policy and that everybody understands how that policy is going to play out.
Yeah, that's great. So now we need to briefly agree on an actual policy that an organization should adopt. So I think that we can all agree that my ideas can be deleted and not included. And then you basically said I think we can say that what do you think about having this service to understand the working environment concerning sexual harassment that I think would be anonymous? Should we have that?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we should have that too. Also, what about the office for understanding the sexual harassment consequences and responsibilities and to report it to? That was the idea of Ezekiel. What
I
about
think,
having that?
yeah, I think I agree with that too.
Okay. Yeah, me too. So I think all of your ideas are great because it makes everyone in the company feel safer and aware of what it means what it means to harass someone and report, what are the consequences, the responsibilities, because when there's sexual harassment in a company, I think everyone is involved. The company is held accountable because they should know what's happening inside. Then the harasser, obviously, the victim is affected. The working environment is terrible. People should know what they should look for and what is a sign of sexual harassment. So all your ideas, I think they're great and should be implemented in this company. What's it called? Lone Star, to make it easier for everyone to talk about it and don't feel afraid of being fired or ashamed about it, because sometimes women feel ashamed even when they're not um, responsible for it at all. But yeah, I think that would be a great policy. Finally, um, do you have any questions? Because now I can tell you what actually happened in the case.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so this is a real case, even though the company and individuals have been disguised. It says, when Jack called the corporate counsel, he forgot about the caller ID. The lawyer used the information he gave her to figure out the people he was talking about. She contacted the Lone Star EEO, which launched a formal investigation. The EEO tried hard to get Martinez to cooperate. French denied all charges, claiming that Martinez had made up her story to protect herself from pending layoffs. De Coste was asked for evidence, but he didn't have any. Julia Martinez's husband found out what was going on, beat up Julia, and forced her to quit. French survived the investigation with only a bruised reputation. He blamed everything on De Coste for calling corporate counsel. There was so much animosity between De Coste and French that De Coste left the company after 3 months. So, uh, what do you think was the Lone Star sexual harassment policy? And if Lone Star had one, did Jack know anything about it? It was terrible how it ended. I just read it now. It
That is
was bad
terrible.
for everyone. Yeah.
That's awful. That's like
Yeah,
against
that's why
everything that we
people don't
just
want to
said.
take it.
Let's pretend like that didn't happen. Let's say something else ended. Okay, it ended differently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really terrible.
yeah. What policies, procedures, or training might have improved the situation for Jack?
I think
I think
a lot of what we just said,
Mhm.
Yes.
making sure that there's specific training, whether it's every 6 months, every year, whatever. Maybe it's just orientation when people first come to the company, and then a reminder every 6 or 12 months. But having some sort of specific training so that people know what the sexual harassment guidelines are at the company, and knowing what to do when that happens. Also, knowing that there shouldn't be any retaliation. That comes right back to exactly what I said. That somebody cannot retaliate because I reported. And he retaliated so bad that he made him quit. Like, holy smokes!
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think these are the main things why people never say anything about it because they're afraid of this thing happening, which actually happens.
Mhm.
And I think that Jack didn't know if there was a policy in his company because when he heard, he didn't even know what to do. And if there were some training, he could have know what steps to follow and yeah, just what to do about it without having this consequence of being fired. So well, that's our case. If you have any comments, or the final part, I have these three more things, short things. What is the most important thing that you learned from this case?
That you shouldn't look at things and be scared of it. I mean, I think you need to do what's right, no matter what the consequences. Whether for yourself or others. I mean, you really need to do what's right.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was gonna say. Is even knowing the outcome, it doesn't give us the excuse to not, do what we're supposed to and report that. And actually, it
I mean,
also
go ahead. Go ahead, keep going first.
it also makes me, think about kind of the flip side of that. You need to remember that if somebody does an allegation against you, tries to claim that you are person that is causing sexual harassment, or the offender, that you don't retaliate back to the person who reported that, because I've actually been on the other end of that, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but I've been on the other end, and I had to keep in mind the fact that they're just doing what they believed is the right thing.
Mhm.
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, so what I learned from the most important thing I learned, I think it's about one of the other sides of human resource management. It's hard to work in that area. There's a lot of things to cover. I think it's super important, at least here in Latin America. You can see a lot of this sexual harassment in companies. A lot less than before, of course, but we have a lot of how do you say it, machismo,
yeah,
and men think they can do things
yeah.
to women
Male
for them.
chauvinism.
Yeah, and women are just scared. They don't want to lose their jobs. They probably have a family and they don't have any policies. So it's super, super important, I think, to establish these processes in any company and to make it clear for the employees so they know what to do in cases. Anyone else want to say what's the most important thing for you, or I can go to it next.
I would say what I learned the most from that is like I appreciated his honesty when he decided to call and you know
turn that person in. I thought that was kind of smart on his part, because that could have probably like backfired on him if that went to court or whatever. Like it said in the in the thing, like that could have turned on him and he could probably lose his job for that too. So just to be honest, I would say that's what I learned.
Yeah, it can be hard, but it's the right thing to do. So yeah, thanks. So now you need to rate the overall quality of today's discussion from 0 to 10.
10.
Yay!
I feel like we did pretty good.
Yeah. With internet connection issues aside, we did awesome.
Yeah, I think I'll rate it 10.
The internet was bad for several of us. And the last thing would be what things I did well for being the group leader, and what things I could do better for the next time I'm a group leader.
It's an interesting question.
I like that you took
Definitely
charge and you could
get my
made
Chrome
assignments.
Explorer. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. I think you did a great job taking charge and making assignments, so it's good.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we're done, and we can probably stop broadcasting and get on